What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Unhinged Talk. I'm your host, Patrick Hennessy, joined by Brian DeGennaro. How you doing tonight, Brian?
Pretty great, thanks, Pat.
Brian's always great. I've never seen a time when this man's not happy. But let's get right into our topic today. And let's just start off by saying that the Yankees are one of the best teams in baseball. So that's just a prior warning before I say this. But they do have a major problem, and that problem lies in their starting rotation. Now, for anyone who could watch the Yankees on a daily basis, they could realize that the offense is monstrous. There's so much depth. Looking at the outfield, they have Clint Frazier in the minor leagues. He's a starting outfielder on any other team. But then once you look at their pitching staff, it's scary. Now, obviously, it's going to work in the regular season against teams like the Orioles and the Nationals, who aren't that good this season. But once you get to the deeper rings of the playoffs, and especially now that the playoffs are expanded, and the first round is a 3-game series where essentially anything can happen, I don't know how much I trust their starting rotation. You would be going in there with Cole, Tanaka, Monty, Paxton, Happ. In a big game, I trust 2 of those guys. So
Yeah.
it's dangerous. And we kind of saw it today because Jordan Montgomery is one of those guys I can kind of depend on as a top 3 pitcher in the starting rotation, especially with Paxton doing awful. But today he kind of showed that he's not perfect. He gave up 5 runs in, I think, 4 innings against the Phillies. He was just getting slapped around the field. But what do you think about the Yankees rotation at this point?
Yeah, it's definitely something I'm worried about. I mean, coming into the season, we thought it was going to be a strength. And we've seen what it's like to have an ace with Cole. He's looked great all year. And Tanaka's looked pretty good so far, which is great. But, I mean, between Paxton and Happ and now with Montgomery having a bad outing, it's really terrifying.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that Montgomery's going to bounce back after this. He looked good earlier in spring training summer camp as it was called.
Summer.
And stuff. So I mean, he could definitely bounce back. But I'm more worried about Paxton right now because we expected him to be the number 2, and velocity is down. He's definitely not 100% healthy. He can't be. There's no
shot
for it. But he's looked really bad, and that's what I'm worried about.
At this point, I'm like genuinely surprised that Paxton has not hit the IL yet. I don't know. I don't know if he's hiding like an injury. I don't know if he's hiding that the back is still not fully recovered. But there's clearly something not right with Paxton because we were looking at footage of James Paxton compared to this season to last season, and he's just not as confident on the mound. He's not lunging as far towards the plate when he throws the ball, which leads me to believe that it's the back that's still bothering him. So once again, I'm not a doctor. I'm not medically diagnosing James Paxton. But by looking at him from a casual fan's, you don't have to be. You could see that something's not right, and he's not confident in his body right now because that's not the James Paxton we know and love, sitting at 93 right down the heart of the plate. And that's not going to get it done against good hitters. And we've seen it. He got knocked around by Boston, who has 2 to 3 good hitters in their lineup. So I'm scared to see how he would pitch against the Dodgers, for example.
Yeah. I mean, that's something that is going to have to be resolved at some point in the season. He's not going to continue pitching like this because at some point they're just going to pull the plug on him and put him on the IL or something. I mean, something's got to be done because this is not okay.
But I don't even want to like jump to conclusions here, but this situation does remind me exactly of Sonny Gray. Now, the injury is kind of like not like Sonny Gray, obviously, but it's a guy we had such high expectations for, and he showed us glimpses of greatness. And then once the season comes around, he just can't get guys out. And for some reason, they keep giving him more chances, Now, obviously, I hope this isn't the case with Paxton, but I could totally see him going to another team next year, signing a contract because he is a free agent after the offseason and being an absolute ace. Because Sonny Gray's an ace on the Reds now. After he was moved to the bullpen for the Yankees because he was so bad.
That was such a shit show.
How do you mess that up?
I mean, we got to blame that on Larry Rothschild. There's no other explanation for it.
But I don't want to get thrown off track here. But, I mean, I just hope that James Paxton can turn himself around because it would be huge.
Yeah, well, I'm hoping with Matt Blake, the new pitching coach, he's able to figure something out. But like I said, I do think that it's got to be related to the injury. He can't
Has
be
to be.
100% healthy.
Yeah.
There's no possible way. So I don't
Yeah.
know if that means he needs more time to rest and recover, or if he's just got to find a way to adjust and work through it. I don't know, but they need to figure it out because he can't keep pitching the way he has been.
And
Um,
also Jay Happ,
oh yeah, I was just gonna bring
absolutely
him up.
atrocious. For a guy that doesn't have
Atrocious.
velocity as it is, and he relies on his control to get guys out, he has lacked control. He can't do anything on the mound. When you're a guy who doesn't have amazing stuff and doesn't have super high velocity, when
Mhm.
you don't have your control, you have absolutely nothing on the mound, and
Right.
he shows it. I think he had 6 walks in like 3 innings the other day. Like
Yeah. Didn't he?
it's so
Yeah.
bad.
Didn't he walk in
I
a run
just
or something too? It was like
I don't even know,
it's
but
just,
he's probably
I
worse than Paxton, and that says a
yeah,
lot.
I never liked Hap because he's always been a fastball pitcher that doesn't throw fast. So it's
Yeah,
just been a recipe for disaster. But he always had stellar control. That was always the thing that everyone bragged about with him. They said he could put his fastball exactly where he wanted to go. And
yeah,
clearly that's not the case anymore. So
really not.
something's got to be done about him. I mean I would be totally fine with them cutting him, to be honest.
Honestly,
But
if this continues, I could see it being a possibility because
or moving to
that
the
gets me to my
bullpen.
next point here. We have a man at the alternate site named Clark Schmidt, who is an absolute monster at the age of 24 years old. He walked into summer camp, went head to head against Garrett Cole, I believe, and he
Hmm.
dominated a very solid Yankees lineup.
Yeah.
Bring this man up to the major leagues,
Hmm.
see what he could do because he can't be any worse than Jay Happ and James Paxton. Now, the only reason they're not bringing him up is because of the service time issue.
Yeah.
And if we're looking at it like realistically, in my perspective, it kind of makes sense
Yeah.
because why waste a full year of Clark Schmidt when the regular season doesn't really matter that much
Yeah,
this year anyway?
we're not desperate for a pitcher right now. We're
Yeah,
making do even with these bad starts. The Yankees are hitting so well that it's not an issue right now. I think we're more
yeah.
worried about the future for the
But
playoffs.
if we don't see Clark Schmidt sometime this season, I'm going to be greatly disappointed, especially because I don't know what pitchers are going to be available at the trade deadline, especially with the expanded playoffs. If
I
this was a
doubt it.
normal season, we would see a handful of decent to above
Hmm.
average pitchers available at the deadline. One
Hmm.
guy that strikes my interest is former Yankee Lance Lynn on the Rangers. If the
Mm.
Rangers somehow like completely fall out of it, which I don't think they will because of the expanded playoffs, I could see the Yankees making a move for Lynn because one, he wasn't that bad during his time with the Yankees, and two, the
Hmm.
Yankees love reuniting with guys after they go off and do well for themselves. So I could see that potentially taking place, but I think Clark Schmidt is the guy. I think
Yeah.
that they need to give him a chance. Once I don't know when the service time cut would be for him to not miss a year of free agency. But whenever the cut is, he needs to come up the day after that because
Yeah.
it's a necessity to get this guy major league innings because he's
Yeah.
clearly ready.
I mean, it can't be long from now. What is it?
Yeah.
Is it a quarter of the season? So
I don't
that'll
really
be
know.
15 games. It's something like that. It's probably like between 15 and
I
20
mean,
games. So
Nick
it's got to be coming
Tropiano.
up.
Like,
Who the
what
hell
are
is
we
that?
expecting out of Nick Tropiano? I'm pretty sure that he's like a career like quadruple A player. I think that he's just been up and down. I could be wrong. Shout out Nick Tropiano. I wish you all the best on the Yankees, but
You
you're
want to
no
come on the
Clark Schmidt.
podcast?
Yeah, you want to come on the podcast, but he's no Clark Schmidt, and I think
No.
even Nick Tropiano would know that.
We
I
also
just
have Mike King there too. I mean,
That's true, Mike King,
he's solid.
but I think that they should be using him in a starting role, and I think
Yeah,
he is on
or as
Saturday.
yeah, or they could even use him as a long reliever if they want to do an opener kind of
They have
thing.
so many long relievers, though.
Yeah, no, I understand that, but they like using the opener because it works. Um, he's not a bad guy to come in second. So
Now that leads me to my next question. What happened to Chad Green being the opener?
I don't know. I thought
Are they trying to give Loizaga that direction now? Because Green is looking
maybe,
dominant this season. Like I would
yeah,
even trust Green as being the closer at this point because
yeah,
he's low key one of the best relief pitchers in Major League Baseball year in year out. He had
hmm
his setbacks last year, but he
yeah.
went down to the minor leagues, came back up, and he's just been
He's been
lights
great since
out,
then. Yeah.
disgusting.
Hmm.
But bottom line, I really hope that they could get their rotation solved, because if the Yankees can get their starting rotation on a level where it's at least competitive, because also Masahiro Tanaka has only pitched 2 innings this season, I believe. So it's like
Yeah.
we only have one starting pitcher so far this season that has given us consistency, and that's Garrett Cole. Imagine if we didn't sign Garrett Cole this offseason. Where the hell would the Yankees be right now?
I
Like,
didn't even think of that.
let's think about this. Where would the Yankees be without Garrett
Yikes.
Cole? It's a
Yikes.
scary thought. So
Yeah.
thank God for Garrett Cole. And
God
the
bless
scary
this
part
man.
is I don't even know if we've seen the best of him yet.
No, he hasn't looked great, honestly. Like
No.
he's looked exceptional for a Yankee starting pitcher, but he's not looked like
Yeah.
Garrett Cole. He's
No.
given up a few home runs, he's given up hits. It's not like him. So,
No. It's
the
crazy.
best is yet to come, and that's what's so exciting about this. But I mean, coming back to that, if we can get Tanaka, if Tanaka can continue to be consistent, and then we can get one more guy to just step up and show us that
Yep.
he can at least keep us in the game, then we'll be set for the playoffs. That's really all you really need is three
That's all it
good
is.
starting pitchers for the playoffs.
That's all it
So
is. The only thing that kind of irks me about the Yankees is, let's say Clark Schmidt does come up in September, let's say. Let's say he comes up in September, a month before the playoffs, has 3 starts and dominates.
mhm.
Once playoff time comes around, I could see them handing the start to J.A. over Clark Schmidt just because of the experience.
Don't say
I could
that.
I could definitely see that happening because,
The experience of being horrible in the playoffs? Is that what you're talking about?
well, I mean, let's not discredit Hap. He did decent out of the bullpen against Houston last year, I believe.
Yeah, that's true. I
He
give him
did give
that.
up the walk-off home run to Correa in
Yeah.
game. I don't even remember what
It
game
was
it was.
game 2.
Might have been game 2. But he did give up the walk-off home run, but he was decent. I think he gave us some innings in game 6.
Yeah.
But Luis
All right,
Sessa,
fine. Fine.
yeah. I mean, I'm glad to have Luis Sessa back too. I
Yeah.
never thought I'd say that. Luis Sessa, he can play a big role in that Yankee bullpen. He could eat up some innings, much better than some other guys in there. But yeah, back to what I was saying. I think the Yankees are in position to really win an American League pennant this year and possibly the World Series, as long as they could get that starting rotation down. That's
Yeah.
the missing piece. Their lineup looks amazing. Their bullpen has depth even without Tommy Kahnle. We've seen a lot
Mhm.
of guys step up. Holder,
We don't even have
before,
Chapman yet.
yeah, and we don't even have Chapman yet at this point. And
Yeah.
Britton has been a
Oh,
solid
he's
closer.
looked so good. That
I
was
mean, come
that
on,
was low key one of the best signings that Brian Cashman has had
it's
over the last
crazy,
few years.
and we got him from nothing from
Oh,
the Orioles.
exactly.
It's ridiculous, but
Hmm.
yeah, the Yankee, they're all around so awesome. So nitpicking at their starting pitching it's an issue, but it's not gonna hurt them in the regular season. They're still gonna make the playoffs. It only matters if it gets them over that hurdle, and we're just gonna have to wait and see. Hopefully Schmidt does come up. Maybe they'll make a move at the deadline, depending on who's out of it completely. But we're just gonna have to hope and pray. On that
Hmm.
note, Brian, unless you have anything else to say, I think we're gonna wrap it up.
I think we're good.
All right.